Hi everybody, happy afternoon.
Yes.
So excited today because Claudia's actually going to debunk the mystery on inks. We're going to do a comparison of a bunch of Tsukineko inks, and I'm excited to kind of learn the differences in what you would use these for. So if you have any stamper friends, card making friends, anybody, share on your Facebook page right now so they can join us and chime into the conversation. I'll be manning the chat and you'll be doing all the demos, right?
Yes.
All right, so Claudia, what have you got?
So basically today I'm going to give you a really quick rundown on the different kinds of Tsukineko inks that we have going on in a promo right now for sale. That is I'm going to tell you which ones you use on paper, which ones you emboss with, because I know that sometimes if you're not sure, you may use an ink that doesn't dry and then it smudges your cards or whatnot. So I'm just going to give you the lowdown on 4 different kinds of ink that are offered from Tsukineko. So the first one is probably the most well-known of theirs. It's StazOn. And StazOn is a dye ink. This is what it looks like. It comes with a little plastic protector on top, and you want to keep that. You don't want to throw that away because that's going to keep your ink pad from drying out. However, all of the inks I'm talking about today do have re-inkers, so that's always an option as well. The jet black is archival, and all of these inks are quick drying. They're formulated to work on semi-porous and non-porous papers. So let me just, for example, I'll stamp on here for you. So
that's a cute little stamp you have.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a little pack of flower stamps. Okay, so this is StazOn, and it will require you to use a stamp cleaner because it's so permanent. It may stain your acrylic stamps, so don't be alarmed. It may stain any stamps, actually, rubber as well, just because of the dye formula in there. So don't be alarmed if your stamps get a little bit of color on them and it's just going to be stained that way.
It shows they're loved. They're well loved.
Definitely. So you can see how fast drying that is. It's almost instantaneous. It takes approximately 3 seconds on porous paper, and if you use it on something that's not porous, for example, this glass, it will take a little longer to dry. So you just want to make sure it'll take probably between 5 and 10 minutes to dry if it's something that's non-porous. But this is great permanent ink, like I said, because you can use it on a bunch of different surfaces. So I used it on glass.
And Lori B just pointed out that the name says it all. Stays on because it's going to stay on. It's permanent.
It's permanent. It's not going to budge at all. So you can see how it works on paper. Okay, so let me show you this first. So it works on glass, and then it also works on metal. So I had stamped the top there to show you that it works on metal. So this gives you a kind of really cool, transparent look to your crafts if you're working with glass. And then I did some stamping on a page protector. So if you want to,
I would never have thought to do that, or that it would actually stay on there. But
yeah,
there's
it
your
works.
keyword, stays on a page protector.
Yeah, so you can put, you can stamp over your photos and kind of add
really
like a
cool.
nice element, anything that you want to put into this little pocket.
Will it stay on a photo?
It will.
Okay.
Yes, it
Do you want to
stays.
stamp directly on?
Yes, there's a long list that I have actually typed out because it's way too many things to remember. But it works on plastic, metal, shrink plastic, rubber, leather, polymer clay, laminated paper, coated paper, uncoated paper, photo, glass, porcelain, terracotta, and cellophane.
That's like 15-ish.
Yeah, so if
surfaces. That's really cool.
So if you want to get the most bang for your buck on a permanent ink, this StazOn is the one that you want to use.
And there's lots of colors, right?
Yes, and there's metallic. So the metallic StazOn shows up really nicely on dark paper, and it's got a really nice shimmer to it, and it's quick drying. So it's great for like holiday cards if you want to do snowflakes or any kind of wintry scenes. This ink pad is really awesome. And it also comes with a little inker so that you're actually kind of only using it as you go, so it doesn't dry out. So that's really cool. So that StazOn. I don't know if anyone has questions on StazOn.
I don't see any questions. I do see that, is it chalk based?
No.
From Lori B, that was a question that's here.
No, it's completely dye. It's all dye.
Okay.
So it's dye based We're going to talk about another one that's chalk based, but this one is not. This is just strictly dye, fast drying, permanent. So that stays on.
And Jessica's a total newbie, so she's loving learning about this. So nice to know that. Okay.
This one up next is VersaMagic, and VersaMagic is a chalk ink pad. So VersaMagic, for the most part, I think they may be phasing out the large pads. They come in these little ones called dewdrops, and what's really great about these is that they're literally like a little petal, and you can use them to edge your cards if you want a distressed look, so that's really great for that kind of effect. And it also is small enough that you can buy a pack of, like the pastel pack, and try a bunch of different colors because they're all pretty small. So this, what's really great about this ink is that it is opaque and it's got muted coverage. It's matte finish, so it's high opacity, which means that it's going to show up on dark paper. Like I have a piece of black paper here, but it also obviously works on white paper. But if you can see, I actually use the dark blue on the black, and you can see it for a really subtle effect. And you can clearly see the white, the cloud magic.
And the impression that you've gotten here is much more chalky than what you got here.
Oh, definitely.
This is much crisper, so you can see a major. If you put them like right next to each other,
you can see how it looks like chalk. It's got that nice kind of distressed chalky look. And this one is also air dry. Let me just double check how long it takes to dry. This one takes a little longer to dry, about 10 to 15 minutes depending on...
The chalk one?
The chalk one,
So if you were using this like in your planner, you wouldn't want to turn the page.
Right, you wouldn't want to...
wait a while and let it dry.
Yeah, let it dry a little bit. In certain climates, if it's humid enough, you can actually emboss with this. Like it stays wet enough to emboss with, but it's not embossing ink. We're going to talk about that later. But it is an option if you don't have an embossing ink pad, you can use this. So that is the VersaMagic, which is, this is water-based. So for cleanup, this water, like soap and water,
that'll come right off of your stamp?
It'll come off, yes.
Okay.
You don't need a special cleaning solution for this one. So that's water-based.
So for those who are just joining us, we're walking through some of the Tsukineko inks and the differences in what you would use them for, what surfaces you can use them on, the drying times, all of that. We've already gone through the StazOn ink, and we just did the VersaMagic. So what is next?
Okay, so next is VersaFine, which is my favorite. This one is an oil-based pigment ink. So what's great about this one is that once it's dry, you can use it with water-based medium. So you can use it with your Tombos, your Spectrum Noir, you can use it with watercolors. It's also, this is another one, if Lori B might know this, but if it's got fine detail, you want to use VersaFine.
Okay.
VersaFine will...
So they're giving you hints in the name.
Yes. So you can see here I stamped this kind of like a little doily stamp, and it picks up the teeniest, tiniest, finest little sections of the stamp there. So it gives great fine detailed impressions.
We did get a question about the naming of these. So is VersaMagic a form of VersaMark, which I think we're going to go through in a minute, or is it just they all start with Versa to kind of keep them in the same family?
I think it's just Tsukineko's way of kind of keeping a brand name together because they are completely different. So it's not a series of stamps. They each have their own unique qualities.
It's kind of like you can work some magic with VersaMagic. You can do fine detail with VersaFine.
Yes.
Make your mark with VersaMark.
Yes, VersaMark, you'll see how it makes a mark. Yes, correct.
Okay.
But no, so they're related only by brand, not by characteristic. So you'll see here that you can actually watercolor over this once it's dry, and it's not going to smudge. So that's why this one is my favorite, because I tend to do a lot of stuff with different colors and different inks that are water-based, so this is probably the one I use the most. This is the one that you want to use if you're making like general card crafts, because it's not going to smudge.
Okay.
If you use like VersaMagic, like I said, it's not going to dry instantly, so it'll be a little bit more of a dry time on there. But as you can see, you can watercolor, and it's not gonna budge.
Lori B actually suggested doing that with the VersaMagic, but putting it on your acrylic block and painting off of that like, kind of watercolor.
Oh, definitely.
Off of that.
That's another really good tip. Anything that is water based, you can basically use as a watercolor. So if you wanted to take a little water brush and just use this as
Ooh, I like that.
watercolor, it is very usable. Yes, Lori B. Lori B, you have the greatest tips.
She does. I feel like there was another question that I missed. I'll go back to it. Okay, if you use that ink to stamp paper and put resin on top, will it fade with time? I think we're talking about the VersaFine.
VersaFine, I believe, it's archival. The images stamped with VersaFine are light, fast, and fade resistant. So they should be fine. StazOn and VersaMagic, I believe, except for the black, they will fade. They're light fast, so they will fade.
So much to remember about all these inks.
So much information. But I'll just show you really quick. So this is the same. This is VersaFine. But I'll just show you how you can use it with markers as well. So you can see how it's not gonna budge at all when you're coloring. So you're open to blending different colors, and it's not gonna make your ink bleed at all. So that's great for all you.
We're still on VersaFine,
yes,
right? Okay.
VersaFine.
We kind of brushed past this. When you pulled this open, they're like, what was that? What are the watercolors in the tin? This is actually a Prima product,
yes,
right?
They're confections, I believe.
Yeah, the Prima confection watercolors. It's a great little travel watercolor set.
Yes, it's got little compartments in it, and then you can use the sides to blend. But it's really nice for travel. It's got a little thumb or finger grip there so that you can hold it and as you paint. So it's a really cute set. I think it comes in 3 different sets of colors. But that's one of our favorites around here as well.
Yeah.
So that's great for using with water-based media if you want to stamp. And then now comes VersaMark. So VersaMark is the essential embossing stamp pad. It's clear ink. It's very, very tacky. It's oil-based. So this one as well, once it dries, you can use different mediums on it because it's not gonna budge with water.
Okay.
So if you wanted to do some kind of resist technique, that's the stamp pad for you. It also comes in these other cool finishes. This one is champagne, and it's got like a really nice subtle sheen to it. And then this one is frost, and it also has a really cool sheen. But because it's clear ink, it's very subtle. So let's see. This is probably the ink that's got like the most uses, the most different techniques that you can do with the rubber stamps. This is just the ink stamped onto cardstock.
Okay.
So you can see that
no special effects, just stamping right onto the paper.
This is just stamping right onto the paper and letting it dry. You can tell that it creates a quote-unquote tint. So it looks like you stamped it with a shade darker ink, but it actually, that's just how it looks when you stamp it on.
Nikki said VersaMark is a must-have.
It is. Definitely. So you can see how just by stamping on a color, so you let that dry and you get that cool like tone-on-tone effect.
Or you can do other things, right?
Yes. Or if you use it on white paper, you can barely see. I mean, it's like the most subtle watermark.
That's really cool.
But if you use it on paper with clear embossing powder, you get a really cool raised watermark. And then this is the stamp pad with, the ink pad with embossing powder. So if you're going to be doing a lot of embossing, this stays wet the longest so that you don't have to worry about rushing and sprinkling on your powder. Here, I'll show you how easy it is to. So you just stamp, and you'll see how the embossing powder just sticks really well.
You can create a resist on glossy paper with it as well,
You
like you said.
can, and I'll show you. So sorry, this is a little staticky, but you can see how this is like the essential for embossing powder. It does really great coverage, and like I said, it stays wet long enough that you don't have to rush. Because you're risking rushing with the VersaMagic. It doesn't stay wet as long. But
really
yeah.
quick, Lunia asked,
Yes.
I hope I'm pronouncing that correct, she said, which did you use for the black paper? What showed up? VersaMagic.
VersaMagic. That is...
Think it like magic, it shows up on black.
Yes, exactly. That's a good way to remember it. Even, I actually didn't try the black one on black, but I bet you it works. Yes. So every color works on dark paper. So that's a great one to have. I mean, all these different inks are good in their own way, so they're good staples to kind of have in your stash because no matter what project you're working on, you're going to have an ink on hand that's going to work with what technique you're doing. So I have one more little technique here, which I'm sorry, I forget who mentioned it, but someone mentioned resists.
Yes.
So
I think it was Nikki.
hold on, I have some more paper. Do I have paper? Yeah. Okay. So if you take your VersaMark and you want to kind of work with this while it's still, before it dries, I have some pastels here, but this actually works with eyeshadow. I saw someone do it online with eyeshadow. But essentially what you do is any kind of pigment powder is going to work with this technique. So you're just going to stamp whatever image you want. And while the ink is still wet, you kind of just color it with a pastel, and it picks up that stamped image.
Very cool.
Yeah, so you can, over here you see that I blended a couple of different shades together, but so this one is probably the most versatile as far as techniques goes, but they all have their individual qualities that make them all great additions to your stash.
I love it. We have a great sale right now on all the Tsukineko inks.
Tsukineko.
Hard to say that. But if you joined in late, the replay will be available. We went through the StazOn ink, the VersaFine ink, the VersaMark ink, and the VersaMagic. So all of those and the different techniques that you can do. We've put links to all of the inks as well. If you have any more questions, let us know in the comments. We'll be monitoring that, and we'll make sure to